Hello world, welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello world and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so good to be with all of you today. It is Wednesday, the epicenter of another absolutely breathtaking, busy broadcast week. We have so much to get to on the show today. We're broadcasting live from Rumble, live from Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, every podcast platform you could ever imagine. Huge thank you to Annie, our producer, who makes things happen behind the scenes every day here on the Shannon Joy Show. Massive shout out to our sponsors. We're so thankful for the folks over at Colonial Metals Group. You'll hear from them today. Also, the Satellite Phone Store, and of course, PCM and Associates. Last but not least, thank you to all of you, the loyal Shannon Joy audience. So many of you have been with me since we started this show in a double wide trailer in a cornfield on a 5,000 watt radio station almost 12 years ago. April Fool's Day, so April 1st of 2025 will be the 13th anniversary, I believe, of the Shannon Joy Show, maybe the 12th. I don't remember, but it's been a long time. You guys have been an amazing audience. Those of you who support this independent network, please go to, I appreciate you. And if you want to support the network, please go to theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com. That's our independent website. You can sign up for the daily e-news blast. We have so much going on today. CM 1968. Hello, Shay. It's a red beanie day this time. Absolutely. Saying hi to Annie as well. When I wear the beanie, that is an indication to all of you that I didn't have time to do my hair, because the news cycle is relentless. It is overwhelming. It is like a fire hose in my face every day. I cannot imagine how all of you out there, you have full-time jobs, you have families, you have a life. I don't know how anyone can grapple with the velocity of the news cycle and how quickly, since the inauguration of Donald Trump and the establishment of DoGE and the entrance of Elon Musk as, I guess, the king of the world alongside Donald Trump, how fast this pace is and how quickly things are changing. The headlines are relentless. And if the show has been, I wanted to start the show out today just by apologizing to all of you. Over the last couple days and even the last couple weeks, if the show is bad, it's because I'm grappling with a completely new paradigm as Trump enters the office and is doing all sorts of blatantly unconstitutional things, along with really good things in some of the executive orders. We have a schizophrenic presidency, schizophrenic headlines, and people who are typically on the right, conservatives, constitutionalists, Republicans, who would normally be raging against some of the things that Trump is doing, namely, establishing unelected oligarchs and bureaucrats to massive positions of power with access to trillions of dollars worth of data about U.S. citizens, businesses, our country, military secrets, you name it. Normally, the right would be losing their minds over this. They'd be talking about a dictatorship. They'd be talking about a tyrant. They would be quoting the Constitution to all of you and separation of powers and federalism. You could listen to Mark Levin and he would go back and quote the Federalist Papers. I mean, you name it, they'd be going crazy, but they're completely silent. Not only are they silent, they're giving justification to some of the worst aspects of this. And in a bizarre way, some members of the left-wing media are asking the questions that the right-wing media should be asking or would typically be asking. So everyone's kind of swapped sides. We have a new governmental agency called DoGE. We have a currency crisis. We have it's astounding. It's absolutely astounding. There is just so much going on. What was that, Annie? Okay, very good. Thank you. Sorry, Annie's just in my ear. Thank you, Annie, for producing the show today. And so in moments like these, and for a couple weeks as I'm kind of getting my bearings and figuring out what is going on, you know, I'm grappling with these issues just like you are. It's all very confusing. And it feels a lot like it did during COVID-19 in 2020 when the government shut everything down. Normally, right wing would be talking about tyranny. They would be talking about a military coup, and they didn't. And yeah, I need some grace today too. Thanks, Guitar Lily. And so if you guys wouldn't mind just bearing with me as you know, we grapple with these headlines and get into the news of the day, doing the best I can and trying to make sense of what is going on. On the agenda today, you've seen the headline of the Shannon Joy Show, the unelected, technocratic, king of the world, Elon Musk, exposed today to a certain extent, and a major warning from Dr. Naomi Wolf, who penned a very important Substack yesterday. It's about 10 pages printed out. It is an exhaustive review of the establishment of DoGE, the establishment of Elon Musk in a major power role in the United States of America and the world, the constitutionality of it, and all of the dangers lurking behind the establishment of this new entity, a technocracy to replace the bloated bureaucracy, which we all hate, right? But what does that mean? What does it mean to have the functions of government handed over to artificial intelligence and AI to be controlled by just a small, tiny handful of very powerful, very wealthy, and ideological oligarchs? People who have belief systems about what the 21st century should look like. People who believe that maybe we should have a monarchy. Maybe we should have, rule by an elite over the masses because, democracy is just a little too messy and it doesn't work. And so Naomi is being hammered. I was texting with her this morning, for her observations. And it's interesting that those of us who are poking our heads out and asking questions about the constitutionality and the rationality of this flurry of activity within the federal government are really being shunned and told to stand down, mocked at certain points, and she alludes to that in her piece. So we're going to look at Naomi's piece today on the Shannon Joy Show. We're also going to welcome Major Tom Haviland back on the show. He's a regular guest in the Shannon Joy Show, a very early freedom fighter, a warrior for medical freedom during the dark days of COVID. And he will be discussing his latest People's Survey on COVID vaccine injuries and death, and also in relation to the surveys that he has conducted, multiple surveys of coroners across the United States of America and even internationally, involving coroner's reports and the removal of those very bizarre white fibrous clots from the bodies of Americans who have perished. So we're going to hear from Major Tom Haviland, also on the eve of what is likely a confirmation of Bobby Kennedy as the leader of the Department of Health and Human Services. So this is all but done. My sources are telling me it is over. It is happening. It is almost certain. Tweets out Robert Malone yesterday. RFK Jr. will be confirmed as the head of HHS. He will immediately be confronted with a bureaucracy, a health bureaucracy that seems to be taking notes from 2020. I tweeted out earlier today, the CDC is now sending guidance out to insurance companies and hospitals to begin testing of bird flu on every patient that comes into the hospital system. Again, we know the fraud behind the PCR testing. If you test everyone, then you will certainly have an epidemic or a pandemic. And the CDC just released those directives a day or two ago. So the big question is, Bobby Kennedy Jr. in leadership at HHS. HHS oversees the CDC. It's the umbrella organization that oversees the CDC and the NIH and the FDA and all sorts of health agencies. Will RFK Jr. immediately tell them to cease and desist with the fear porn about bird flu? This is leading, as you all know, to the mass slaughter of chickens, which is why eggs cost so much and chicken costs so much. And we've seen this play out over and over and over. We assume because we elected President Trump, who appointed Bobby Kennedy Jr., that Bobby Kennedy Jr. representing MAHA, or the Medical Freedom Movement, would move to stop this absurdity and this insanity immediately. So we're going to be watching and waiting for that. I'm skeptical, as you all know. And so, yes, it's a red beanie day, guys, because I am feverishly trying to go through all of this information and all of these news stories. And it's one after another after another. And just when I get a handle on one, another one comes over the news wire. And you have to grapple with that. And it's just a lot. So I'm going to try today to slow down a little bit and go through Naomi's piece. And then we're going to talk about the slightly bizarre press conference yesterday. Elon Musk took to the Oval Office, flanked by President Trump and Elon's son, whose name, by the way, is X AE A-XII. Which is so strange. He's so weird. Everything is so weird. Paula White is so weird. Elon is such a bizarre character and a weird character with a crazy history, which we'll talk about today. His parents are wackos. Mom's a witch, by the way. Like totally demonic themes just swirling around Elon Musk overtly. He's not even trying to hide it. Dad channeling Woody Allen vibes, multiple wives, had an affair with his stepdaughter who became pregnant, bad relationship with Elon, by the way, whose father or whose grandfather is the father of Technocracy. Technocracy, a utterly demonic, evil ideology, if you explore it, right? Mom's, like I said, a witch. Absolutely demonic themes coming from the entire family. 11 kids to Elon Musk, 3 wives. It's all just so weird. His history is bizarre. The tethering of Elon through his corporations to the Department of Defense and the federal government for decades, right? It's just all so weird. And this guy now has the keys to the castle. And yes, I see your comments on the live chat, guys. Well, there's so much inefficiency and the government is so corrupt. And look at what US aid is doing and all of the stories about the waste and the fraud and the abuse. And I get it. I agree. But in this press conference in the Oval Office, I want to encourage everyone to watch it. It's 30 minutes long. There are a lot of themes and observations that I have taken from watching this entire press conference that I'm going to share with you today, and we're going to look at a few clips from that as well. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Things are weird right now. Mom's a witch and dad is sick as you cannot make this up. And so what they're doing, they're using the frenzy, all of the pent up anger and outrage from 4 years of President Biden, the insanity of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the insanity of transgenderism and men invading women's spaces, all of the spending, the debt and the deficit spending, the lies, the abuse of American people by the Biden administration through lockdowns, enforced vaccines, all of the lies about the shots and how the shots killed and harmed so many Americans, the lies about COVID. It's as if we're a population of people completely divided, but on the right, there's so much pent up rage and anger at the establishment of the federal government that they're using that, all of these stories that are then pushed out through conservative media to all of you, making you feel impotent and angry and outraged, this pent up rage and frustration and anxiety, free floating anxiety about everything, right? And then your guy gets in, Trump gets in, you're so angry, and they're using all of it, all of these stories, all of the real abuses to then move us into something that is not a constitutional republic. It is removing us even further from our Constitution and the founding fathers and the framing of this country. Limited power by federal institutions, power decentralized to first the sovereign individual, then local governments, then state governments, and then federal apparatus that has the least amount of power humanly possible. What they're moving us into is something drastically different. And Naomi Wolf warns of this in her piece that she just released that we're going to look at, The Sack of Rome, Elon Musk's digital coup. Elon Musk and his engineers having captured our data, which is the most valuable commodity on the face of the planet outside of human beings themselves, your physical being, are now more powerful, says Naomi Wolf, than any president, including Donald Trump. And that is why the symbolism of that Oval Office meeting of Trump sitting in a lower statue to Elon Musk standing with his son there channeling some JFK vibes, right? Invading the press conference. It's just all so weird. And saying to the American people, we have taken over. We're going to continue to take over. There will be no transparency. There are questions about transparency. And he said, well, we're voluntarily being transparent. And I see you on the live chat saying, well, we need transparency. When Elon Musk has access to all of the information and then releases it out to us as he pleases in dribbles, right, according to his context, in the context of the federal government and on his platforms, that is not transparency. That's not opening everything up WikiLeaks style to all of the people to scrutinize. He has access to the information, not us. And when they're devolving the bureaucracy, and you have an interview with President Donald Trump and Brett Baier, by the way, who's wearing eyeliner. He looks weird. Everything's strange. Brett Baier and eyeliner on Fox News. I can't even. I don't know what to say. Anyway, you have them talking about, well, democracy is being threatened by the bureaucracy. So we need to hammer the bureaucracy because it is so efficient, but they're not telling us what they're replacing it with. I posit it is the technocracy. It is Elon and his band of techno bros, global oligarchs, right? Because they're not saying we're going to cut spending. In fact, with Brett Baier on Fox News, Donald Trump said that they are going to demand that Congress increase the debt ceiling. What does that mean? There's nothing going back to you. There's nothing going back to the taxpayer. There's no devolution of power. There's no getting rid of massive agencies, taking that money and returning it to the American people and opening them up to free markets. We're looking at command and control. We're looking at a controlled economy run by people like Elon Musk, who now has access to all of his competitors' very private and proprietary data. He has everything. This piece from Naomi Wolf will absolutely stun you. It will stun you. The amount of power that has been amassed overnight, over one weekend by Elon Musk. Yet on the right, we're worshiping him. The guy who wears the Baphomet suit, the open, he with the demonic symbolism overtly over and over. It is very clear that this guy has some ulterior agenda and he needs to be exposed. And we're going to begin that today with Naomi's piece and some clips from that White House press conference and my observations about that White House press conference. Naomi is being, and just from her piece, and we have Major Tom Haviland in the house So we will be bringing him on in a moment on the Shannon Joy Show. My commitment to all of you, we will not leave the COVID vaccine injured behind. We will not leave those who lost loved ones to hospital kill protocols during the dark days of lockdown in 2020 and 21. And Major Tom Haviland has been an absolutely relentless warrior for truth on his own dime, getting very critical data that is now being washed over. It's as if COVID didn't happen. We'll see what happens after RFK is installed at the head of HHS, if there's any change. But I, sadly, am becoming more skeptical by the day. But Naomi's being hammered. This is just a quick piece, and we'll get to Naomi's piece after I talk to Tom Haviland. But she said, for a week, I've been savaged on X, which technologist Elon Musk, of course, co-owns and runs, all right? It's his own little playground, for urgently trying to warn people about those few days over the weekend before last when Elon Musk and 5 or 6 young engineers were alone with their devices plugged in to all of our nation's data. The dangers that could represent. She said, as thanks for my warning, with all links and evidence, I've been called on Musk's-esque a DNC shill, controlled opposition, CIA, a libtard, unpatriotic, and various other epithets. Of course, I am not controlled opposition or a DNC shill or CIA. And thankfully, I'm no longer a libtard, says Naomi Wolf. The former 3 claims are defamatory, while the latter is a First Amendment protected speech. But since these are mostly bots and trolls and lots of conservatives, there is no one to sue. Most of the voices out there are being silenced, and we'll talk about that as well. So we've got an agenda today. Sorry if I'm all over the place here, guys. I am grappling. I'm trying to find some solid ground right now where everything is whirling and swirling and things are moving so quickly. So you guys are great. I appreciate all of you. I am looking at the live chat and the comments. We will get Major Tom Haviland in on the Shannon Joy Show in just a moment to talk about his latest surveys and also the medical freedom movement, the state of the medical freedom movement, what we need to do moving forward in this new paradigm that we are in. Are we even existing in a constitutional republic? Is it even worse in some ways than it was when Biden was in office? Because those who would most voraciously defend the Constitution are nowhere to be found. They're just clapping like seals every day and enjoying the ride, as one conservative tweeted out earlier today. I don't know. When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion on the Shannon Joy Show. Keep it tuned right here. Major Tom Haviland is up next. Hey, everyone. Let's talk about something that most people don't even think about. EMF protection. Everywhere we go, we are surrounded by electromagnetic fields, Wi-Fi, cell signals, and countless other sources. If you're like me, you want to protect yourself and your family, and that's where the Faraday beanie from Sat123.com comes in. Yes, it's cute, it's sassy, but it's also an EMF blocking machine. Whether you're commuting, working, or just relaxing at home, the Faraday beanie gives you an added layer of defense against the invisible waves around us. And just like everything else at Sat123.com, this beanie is made with quality and care by people who value your safety. Don't wait to take control of your well-being or your family's well-being. Go to Sat123.com right now. Use that promo code JOY, J-O-Y, for an extra 10% off. They have great colors, great styles, and all of your Faraday needs. So the Faraday blankets, bags, pouches, and of course, the Escape Zone beanies, which I love, love, love. I wear this every single night. 10% off right now at Sat123.com. That's Sat123.com. Stay safe, stay stylish, stay warm with the Faraday beanie from Sat123.com.
After a lifetime of hard work and smart investing, the last thing you want to worry about is losing your retirement savings. Hi, I'm Paul Stone, CEO of Colonial Metals Group. We specialize in helping hardworking Americans like you take back control of their financial future, safeguard their savings. In economic times like these, millions turn to physical precious metals as a form of insurance, while conventional investment choices face challenges or even collapse. If you have a IRA, 401k, or other type of retirement account, my team at Colonial Metals Group would like to help you build a financial protection plan outlining the most secure future for you. We've put together a free protection kit showing how you can start investing in precious metals 100% tax and penalty free to protect and grow your wealth. You can download it for free now by clicking the button below. Customers, we're very proud to say, across the country have been very impressed by my team's in-depth knowledge of financial history and their ability to listen to you. We hold the same conservative values you hold and ones our great nation was built on. And we can't wait to start helping you and working with you. Again, just click the button below to download our retirement protection kit for free now.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. We are witnessing a little bit of a gold rush right now as more and more people, not just in the United States of America, but across the globe, are moving into metals as the chaos ensues in central banks and governments across the world. Things are just changing so rapidly. In fact, gold is almost over 3,000, which is just unbelievable. And this is why I trust my friends over at Colonial Metals Group. Lots of bargains to be had right now for silver. A lot of people think that it's undervalued. And metals are a way for the average citizen to secure their wealth, to back up their retirement and their savings, and to bridge the gap if there is an event, if there's a currency crisis, a natural disaster, you name it. I have been a very long purchaser of metals, and the company I trust is Colonial Metals Group. Paul Stone is the CEO. He is the founder. He supports the Shannon Joy Show, which is awesome. And will also be with you next week. He is going to guest host my show on Tuesday, the 18th. He's going to spend the hour and a half with all of you answering your questions and talking about the news of the day and the currency crisis. So that's going to be an amazing show. He will also be with us on March 29th for the Summit for Truth and Wellness. This is an unbelievable event, live event, Rochester, New York. You're all getting your tickets right now. I will be there joined by Dr. Naomi Wolf, Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, Mary Holland of Children's Health Defense, obviously, Paul Stone, and other guests as well. I have other people lined up. Aaron Day will be with us talking about the technocracy and also crypto. It's a full day event live in Rochester, New York at Bethel Christian Fellowship. We usually put about 1,000 people in a room for this event. It is intimate, and you have a lot of access to the speakers and the guests, and it's going to be a Q&A style, panel style presentation with myself and also other moderators. You guys are going to love it, and you're also going to be able to meet some of these amazing thinkers, some of the most important voices in the year 2025. So do not miss this. Summitfortruth.com. That is summitfortruth.com. And also attending the Summit for Truth, once again, is a longtime friend of the Shannon Joy Show and my special guest for today, Major Tom Haviland. He is one of our absolute favorite medical freedom warriors, stood up in the dark days of COVID-19, resisted, refused to comply, and then began to conduct very important critical surveys of what was going on regarding the COVID-19 vaccine injured, and tragically those who have died from the COVID-19 shot in relation to the coroner survey that he has done. He's conducted multiple surveys and is also doing a people's survey as well. Tom, I cannot wait to see you on March 29th. There is so much going on. I mentioned to my audience, fire hose in my face every single day with all the headlines. And I'm dying to hear about what you think about everything that's going on. RFK is going to be confirmed tomorrow. How are you doing?
Great, Shannon. And, I listened to your monologue, and you are absolutely correct to be skeptical about things because we're getting mixed signals, aren't we? Especially in the medical freedom movement. What's RFK Jr. going to do and Jay Bhattacharya when they get into office?
Right.
And to make sure that this stays on their radar, I'm going to CPAC next week as well.
Good.
I'm going to take this T-shirt with me, and the T-shirt says Trump, please renounce the jabs.
There we go.
And
there
on the
we
back,
go.
it says not 100 million saved, but 17 million killed.
That's right.
So, and I'm not just taking that as well, Shannon. I'm also taking, of course, this that I'll be showing to the folks there. I went to CPAC last year, by the way.
Right.
And Dr. Malone had a big conference there at the same time, and we talked about medical freedom. And if that's not good enough for them, I'm going to show them maybe a little bit larger sample. Here's another white fibrous clot.
Oh,
Shannon.
my word. Oh, my word, Tom.
Yeah, about 6 inches long.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, these things, Shannon, unfortunately, there's embalmers all over the world are still seeing these unusual white fibrous clots, which started for them in 2021 after the jabs rolled out. And they're seeing them still at an average of 27% of their corpses. These things are not rare. These things are prevalent, Shannon.
Let's start there with, I mean, some of the very important work that you have done in terms of surveying coroners across the globe and what you're finding. These are very important data points that Tom is diligently collecting for the record. And if you can just remind the audience, we have a brand new, much bigger audience now, Tom, as we keep platforming the Shannon Joy Show. Remind the audience of why you decided to do this when you were standing up in the dark days of 2020. And then let's get into what you're finding, your updated findings. That clot that you just showed is devastating. I mean, that came out of a soul, a human being.
It did.
As you know, as part of a coroner's report. It's just tragic. But let's quickly remind everyone about who you are and why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm a retired U.S. Air Force major. Spent 20 years in the U.S. Air Force. And then 16 years after that as a defense contractor working with the Air Force. Was fired from my job for not taking the jab, but it was okay because it gave me the time, Shannon, in an early retirement to do these surveys I've been doing. And it all started when I watched that Died Suddenly movie back in November of 2022. That movie can still be found on Rumble. It's about an hour long. And about 6 or 7 embalmers in that movie said they were finding these unusual white fibrous clots in their corpses they had never seen before until 2021. So I got up the next day after watching that movie and I called the Ohio Embalmers Association, located in Cincinnati, Ohio, about an hour south of where I live in Dayton. And I talked to their then vice president at the time, and Mr. Woody Wilson, who is now the president of the Ohio Embalmers Association. Woody's a funeral director and an embalmer as well. He embalms his own bodies up in his funeral home in Marysville, Ohio, about an hour north of where I live. And Woody told me, Tom, I'm seeing the white fibrous clots too. So I said, wow, now I have an official officer, the now president of the Ohio Embalmers Association, corroborating these 6 or 7 embalmers in this Died Suddenly movie. So right then and there, Shannon and I decided I needed to do a survey, a nationwide survey, which I then later on turned into a worldwide survey by including Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand to see just how prevalent these clots are. So that led me to the creation of that first survey, and I've done 2 since then. So now I've done 3 annual worldwide embalmer blood clot surveys, and the results are just shocking.
Yeah, why don't you go into some of the results that you have found, and let's update everyone on this is like current. I mean, we're not talking about COVID anymore, Major Haviland. We're not really having discussions about vaccine injury and death. We're not talking about the COVID-19 vaccines. The official story from Washington, D.C. as of today is the COVID-19 vaccines might have a few little problems, but they saved millions of lives. And you, as a testament with your T-shirt, they didn't save hundreds of millions of lives. They are actually killing people. But what are you finding real time right now? And it's going to shock people, I'm sure.
Yeah, by the way, in the first survey I did back in the end of 2022, 2/3 of the embalmers were seeing the white fibrous clots. They were seeing them in an average, Shannon, of 30% of their corpses. Shocking.
Wow.
And most of them agreed in that first survey that they did start seeing this phenomenon in 2021 after the jabs rolled out. Then I ran the survey again in the second year of the end of 2023. 73% of the embalmers said they were seeing the white fibrous clots that year. It did go down to 20% of the corpses, so that was a good sign. The embalmers are also seeing another phenomenon called microclotting, which they describe as what looks like coffee grounds or dirty blood in the drainage coming off the corpses. They're trying to put their formaldehyde in. And they were seeing that phenomenon in 25% of the corpses, 1 out of every 4 corpses. Now, this is something they had seen prior to the years of COVID, but in way less than 5% of their corpses.
Wow.
Typically patients that had heavy chemotherapy. So that was at least a quadrupling or quintupling of that particular side effect. And like I said, the white fibrous clots they've never seen before. These embalmers have 20 or 30 years of experience and never seen these white fibrous clots before the years of COVID or the vaccines. They'd only see 2 other types of clots. One called grape jelly clots. They look like just like dark grape jelly, dissolve easily in your hands. And then also something called chicken fat clots, which are much smaller, yellowish in color, and they tear very easily. Much different than these large white fibrous clots. It's real tough and rubbery and very hard to break down.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm shocking you there.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So then we ran the survey again this year, Shannon. And this year, by the way, each year I've gotten more and more responses, which is a good sign.
That is a good sign.
I've actually sent the survey out to about 50 national, regional, and state funeral director associations around the world. And then also to 1,700 funeral homes directly. I looked up the email addresses for over 1,700 funeral homes and sent each of the surveys to them as well to try to maximize the number of results we got.
Right.
But in this year's survey, we did get 301 responses. One of the unusual things, Shannon, is that in one of my best performers from last year, the Pennsylvania Funeral Directors Association, who had actually sent out my survey, and in just 2 days, I got 125 responses from embalmers in that one state alone.
Wow.
But guess what this year, Shannon? They decided to decline to participate in my survey. In spite of the fact that their own president says he's seen unusual clotting. Let me read you the short email that he sent to me. I won't mention his name. This is dated November 20th of 2024. He says, "Hey, Tom, I'll see what I can do." And he's talking about trying to get his executive board to forward out the survey again this year. He says, "I was one of the embalmers who responded to the survey last year regarding the clot situation, so I do recognize this to be a current situation. I see," and he names a fellow colleague on here, "on this email, and he and I do quite a bit of chatting together about it, and I do help his firm when he's away, so I do see the same things that he's experiencing. More concerning for me is the poor distribution I've been experiencing to the extremities, clots aside. Nearly every person that I embalm is not getting good distribution to one or both of the hands below the elbow, something I've not seen in the past." So here's the president of the Pennsylvania Funeral Directors Association admitting that he's seen unusual clotting even in 2024, yet his association declines to participate in the survey.
Well, that looks like there's political influence or there's political pressure being brought to bear on some of these associations and individuals, meaning that there is a cover up or they're attempting to cover up what everyone is seeing. That's really interesting, Tom. But you had 301 respondents for your most recent survey. And what did they find?
83% of them, Shannon, 250 of the 301 said they are seeing the white fiber clots through the year 2024, and they were seeing them in an average of 27.5% of their corpses. So this is really shocking. And then in terms of the microclotting, 78% of the embalmers said they were seeing the microclotting phenomenon, and they were seeing that in 22% of their corpses. So those are the 2 biggest questions we asked about the clotting this year. I also sprinkled in some questions this year, Shannon, about this reluctance of the embalmers and the funeral director associations to want to talk about the clots. So one of the questions that we asked them was, when you talk to other embalmers, do they say that they're seeing the white fibrous clots? And about 2/3 of the embalmers say, yeah, when I talk to the other embalmers, they're seeing the white fibrous clots too. But what's interesting about that is the embalmers are talking to each other privately about this, but very few of them are coming forward publicly. Only a few, like Mr. Richard Hirschman, who's a trained embalmer in Alabama that was in the Died Suddenly film. These other 6 or 7 embalmers that were in that movie. Mr. John O'Looney from the UK, he's a funeral director over there. So they're talking privately about it, and they're admitting to each other they're seeing the clots, but they just don't want to come out and talk about it publicly. One of the other things, go ahead.
No, keep going. Why don't you finish and then I'll have my questions.
Okay. Well, one of the other things we did is we also asked them, well, what about your associations? And we asked if most of these embalmers are members of either a funeral director or embalmer association. Only about 1/5 of the embalmers said that their funeral director associations are talking about this phenomenon, even though 83% of them, like I said, say that they're seeing this. And they have plenty of opportunities. These associations have either biannual or annual in-person meetings where they all get together, and then they also put out monthly or quarterly newsletters, but they're not talking about this. One of the reasons I think it might be happening, Shannon, is most of these funeral director associations, their presidents, they're funeral directors themselves. Right. And would you want to participate in a survey that might show a link between the COVID-19 vaccines and these white fibrous clots if you had mandated that all the members of your employees of your funeral home take the shots, right?
Wow, right.
You'll be setting yourself up for a liability suit. Also, as you know, the CDC has told us about 80% of American adults over the age of 18 took at least the first 2 shots. So there might be some personal cognitive dissonance going on. They may not want to know the answer to these questions, right? Because they took the shots themselves.
Right. So these are highly foreign clots. These are white fibrous clots that never seemed to exist prior to the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine, as evidenced by multiple 3 surveys now conducted by Tom Haviland of actual coroners who are conducting autopsies of people who have deceased. So this is truly bizarre. Many in the live chat, Tom, are wondering, have you done any research or do you have any insight into the composition of these white fibrous clots? What are they? Do they contribute? Are they contributing to the death of these individuals? If you've talked to some of the coroners, do they have some type of relationship to that death? And are they indicative of vaccine injury? So those would be my first couple questions for you, but let's start with the composition. Like, what are these?
Yeah.
What are they?
It's not coroners I'm talking to, it's embalmers. So
embalmers,
yeah,
embalmers.
Yeah, they're getting bodies ready for funerals.
Okay.
Because the coroners seem to be missing them. The medical examiners, they'll when they do autopsies, they'll do a close examination a lot of times, Shannon, of the heart and other areas, and they'll maybe test for toxicology if they suspect, a person overdosed on drugs. But very few of them take close looks at the vascular systems. So the embalmers believe that the medical examiners and coroners are missing a lot of these white fibrous clots, and it's the embalmers that are finding them.
Right, because embalmers drain the whole body, right? Correct. And then they feel, so they're taking all the fluids out. And so they would be the ones who would, oh my gosh, what a job, by the way.
When they find a body that's riddled with these clots, it actually has lengthened the time of doing embalming from about an hour and a half to about 2.5 hours now. It takes them, if they find a body, they have to stop and keep pulling clots out of different, so strange. But in terms of the composition, very early on, Richard Hirschman's been sending samples of these all over the world. He sent them to our good friend, Dr. Ryan Cole, the pathologist in Idaho.
Amazing.
Others, the scientists we're working with. And they've determined the white fibrous clots. Obviously, it's not blood coagulating because it hadn't got that red color.
Right.
They've done analysis and found that the clots contain very little potassium, magnesium, or iron in them. Iron's what gives blood its red color. But instead, they're finding lots of phosphorus, for example, in the clots. And phosphorus just happens to be one of the ingredients that's in the COVID-19 vaccines. I wonder. But and they're also, so they've looked at the clots, and they're finding fibrinogen, which is actually produced by our liver. Fibrinogen is used in the normal clotting process. It's in a liquid form in our blood plasma. And during the normal clotting process, it transfers into a white solid called fibrin.
Okay.
But something unusual is happening. It's not doing that process now. What we think is happening is the spike protein, either from the COVID virus or from the COVID vaccine, is causing a lot of damage to what's called the endothelial lining of the vascular system, of our veins and arteries.
Okay.
And it's damaging this endothelial lining and triggering the clotting response. But when the fibrinogen starts to convert, instead of converting into fibrin, it's converting into this very bizarre polymer. It actually combines with the spike protein, which is becoming phosphorylated. And it's also combining with the lipid nanoparticle. At the moment, the lipid nanoparticle opens to release its modified RNA payload. Wow. So now you're getting this bizarre polymer that then becomes very difficult for our bodies to break down. So the scientists we're working with are trying to go through all the steps, and they've done lots of scientific tests, such as a thioflavin T test, to prove that these white fibrous clots are indeed made of this basically misshaped or misfolded protein, a combination of fibrinogen, the spike protein, and the phospholipid nanoparticle. Yeah. There's also the modified RNA also produces what's called nonsense proteins about 10% of the time in a process called frame shifting. It actually is, it's the our ribosomes in our body are misreading the modified RNA code from the vaccine, and instead of producing the spike protein, which is damaging enough,
Right.
instead it's producing these nonsense or aberrant proteins, which are also being found in the clots. So it's just a mess, Shannon. They had no control. You know, they said the shot was going to stay in your upper arm, produce just enough of the spike protein to elicit an immune response for just a couple of days a week. Then it's got you ready for COVID, and then the mRNA would leave your body. It's been a total disaster. The lipid nanoparticles go all over the body, turning your whole body into a spike protein factory. And they found in papers doing it for months at a time, as opposed to just a few days to a week. In fact, Dr. Peter McCullough believes that there may be no off switch for the production of the spike protein by the vaccine's mRNA in our bodies. So not a good situation.
Not a good situation. And here we have President Trump, making an appearance for the first time at a Super Bowl, first president ever to make an appearance at a Super Bowl, the Super Bowl running ads for Pfizer promoting an mRNA cancer vaccine to millions of Americans. What do you make of that, Tom?
Yeah, I think he's putting the cart in front of the horse there, because, like I said, myself, Dr. McCullough, Dr. William Mack, who you had on your show,
Yep.
We're finding all kinds of horrific side effects from these vaccines, not just these white fibrous clots, but also the myocarditis, the turbo cancers, the miscarriages, the nerve damage. One of the things that we discovered along the way, Shannon, that when the embalmers and I were not surprised, is a couple of whistleblowers have started to come forward. They haven't come forward fully, but there are doctors that are actually working what's called catheterization labs, or cath labs for short. This is where living people go to get blood clots removed from them. And traditionally in the past, it was just your grape jelly clots and the chicken fat clots. But now they've started to pull these unusual white fibrous clots out of the living people as well, if they can get to them in time.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, so what I did is similar to the embalmer survey that I did, I tried to run a survey amongst cath lab workers, vascular surgeons, endovascular specialists, cardiologists, nurses, anesthesiologists that work in these radiologists that work in these labs, to see whether this phenomenon is happening in the living as well. And we know that it is from like I said, the couple of whistleblowers that come forward. My whistleblower, by the way, is a endovascular specialist and cardiologist from Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
He's come forward by name, but he's been pulling these white fibrous clots out of living people for the last 4 years. So and and another doctor over in the UK, Dr. Philip McMillan, who runs a YouTube channel called Vegan Health, VEJON. He's found his own whistleblower, also another cath lab worker here in the United States, who says in his one cath lab alone, every week he's pulling out anywhere between 3 to 10 of those white fibrous clots out of people in just his one cath lab alone. And he also, by the way, these doctors, unlike the embalmers, they do have access to the vaccination records of all their patients.
Right.
This guy, he says 99% of the time when he finds the white fibrous clots, the person's been jabbed with anywhere between 1 to 8 COVID jabs. And the more jabs they've taken, the worse the clotting seems to be.
Wow.
So, this is huge. So what I tried to do is I tried to run a survey amongst these cath lab workers, and I sent them to the vascular surgeon societies for around the different nations, US, Canada, UK, Australia, and New Zealand again. And I got no responses from any of those organizations except for one, which is the US Society for Vascular Surgery. And they're located in Rosemont, Illinois. And they have over 6,300 member, vascular surgeons around the country.
Okay.
They sent me back an email, Shannon. Here's the email they sent back to me from the SVS. And that email, basically, they declined to take the survey.
Huh.
So I'm running into brick walls here, right? Because if the vascular surgeons, cath lab workers, embalmers, funeral directors, if they don't tell us what's going on inside the veins and arteries of people, we don't know what's happening, right? So what I did is, since I couldn't get any responses at all out of those societies, I said, well, if I can't get any good information from the doctor end, maybe I can get it from the patient end.
Okay.
So I decided to run a people's blood clot survey. And in that people's blood clot survey, I had Dr. John Campbell, a famous YouTuber over in the UK.
Yes. Yes.
The QR code for me. And then also Clayton Morris and his wife, Natalie, at Redacted News.
Good. We like them. We like them a lot. Awesome.
They advertised this QR code for this people's blood clot survey. And Shannon, I got 1,400 responses in just a couple of weeks.
Amazing.
All over the world. Yeah. So the doctors were tight-lipped about it, but the patients were happy to tell me about all their clotting issues, that they've had since I actually asked them to do it since 2020.
Wow. So do you think, question from the live chat, is there anything that you have seen or any type of way to dissolve or cure people? You're saying that these clots are being pulled out of living people at this point. Is this a mechanism that will continue for the rest of their life? Or is there any movement, any research that leads to potentially some type of cure or solution to this new type of clotting that you're saying?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think these tough clots are so tough, it's hard for them to be broken down once they've formed. Now, when doctors come into these, or patients come into these cath labs, the doctors will immediately give them clot-busting drugs like tissue plasminogen activators, called TPA.
Yeah.
And that does a great job on breaking down the grape jelly clots, the traditional ones, but doesn't seem to have a whole lot of effect on these white fibrous clots. So then the doctors have to go in with flexible catheters and remove the clot by either sucking it out, scraping it out, or lassoing the clot and pulling it out. Yeah. So that's how now in terms of not.
Do they come back? Do they come back? So they go in, they get these pulled out. Is it just a rinse and repeat type of situation where their body can't turn it off?
It can come back if your body is a spike protein factory continually producing the spike proteins. That's the problem. That's why Dr. Peter McCullough and others advertise the spike detox protocol, nattokinase, bromelain, curcumin, NAC, those kind of supplements to help detox the body of the spike protein, so then the clots don't form in the first place.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you have to address the spike protein. We're going to go to break in a minute, and I'll bring you back for a couple more questions. But I also wanted to ask you about when you are surveying the embalmers and the people and running these surveys, and you're seeing these numbers, it's about 70 to 80% are seeing the clots, and then they're seeing them in anywhere between 20 and 30% of the bodies that they are embalming. But 70% of the American public did receive the COVID vaccine. So wouldn't you think that if that large percentage of the American public, maybe it's 65%, if they had taken the vaccine, wouldn't you see a much larger percentage coming out of these reports? And if not, what would potentially contribute to that disparity?
Yeah, good question. And one of the first things we think about is the fact that there was a tremendous batch variation in the vaccines. So there was poor quality. And in fact, there was a study that came out of Denmark a couple of years ago that showed that there was like 5% of the batches were responsible for about 70% of the major adverse side effects. So that could be part of the problem here, right? Is batch variation, right? Also, the number of shots that people have taken is a factor as well. We believe that there's a cumulative effect. The more shots you've taken, the better your chance of this happening, because that basically you're reintroducing your body each time to making more spike protein.
Got it.
Yep, that's a factor as well.
Yeah. So the number of shots, and then the drastic variation, which was actually supported by the research of Sasha Latapova, who is probably going to be coming to the summit as well. Tom Haviland, super excited to welcome Sasha. And so, and also How Bad Is My Batch was a really great website that really confirmed there were different variations of the COVID-19 vaccine going out, and most of the serious adverse events and deaths we're limited to about 5% or even less of those vaccines. In some cases, there is the potential that, and this is according to government contracting and DoD contracting that Sasha uncovered, that you could conceivably have entire batches of placebos going out to certain communities as well. So that variation, I think, Tom, plus the rampant use of fake vaccine cards and fraudulent vaccine cards, people who are lying about being vaccinated, could play into this as well. This is why I usually say, if I were to guess, it's probably about 60% of the United States public that actually did take that COVID-19 vaccine, and an even smaller percentage that took multiple shots, like 6, 7, 8, shots or more. Very, very tiny, but clearly having just absolutely terrible side effects with that. So when we come back, and we're going to go to break real quick, and we're going to bring Major Tom Haviland back in. I'm going to look at some of your questions. Buskman wants to ask, Shannon, can you post Major Haviland's QR code? Absolutely. Annie, maybe we can do that in the break. Maybe we can post it up on the screen and then pop it into the live chat if there's a link to it. I'm not very technological, so I don't really know how to do that, but yeah, Annie knows what she's doing. So Buskman, yes, absolutely. We can post that. And, the big question when I come back is really, what do we need to do now? We have conceivably won, right? We won the presidency. It looks as if RFK Jr. is going to be confirmed quite easily as the leader of HHS, the head of HHS. So we're going to ask Tom, what needs to be done? I mean, it seems as if this issue is being taken off of the front burner, put to the back burner, and we're not really talking about this. So we need to get this back into the discussion. We come back, we're going to ask him about that on the Shannon Joy Show.
After a lifetime of hard work and smart investing, the last thing you want to worry about is losing your retirement savings. Hi, I'm Paul Stone, CEO of Colonial Metals Group. We specialize in helping hardworking Americans like you take back control of their financial future, safeguard their savings. In economic times like these, millions turn to physical precious metals as a form of insurance, while conventional investment choices face challenges or even collapse. If you have a IRA, 401k, or other type of retirement account, my team at Colonial Metals Group would like to help you build a financial protection plan outlining the most secure future for you. We've put together a free protection kit showing how you can start investing in precious metals 100% tax and penalty free to protect and grow your wealth. You can download it for free now by clicking the button below. Customers, we're very proud to say, across the country have been very impressed by my team's in-depth knowledge of financial history and their ability to listen to you. We hold the same conservative values you hold, and ones our great nation was built on, and we can't wait to start helping you and working with you. Again, just click the button below to download our retirement protection kit for free now.
Hey everyone. So what is scarier than a storm or a blackout? Being completely cut off, alone, no phone, no internet, no way to reach anyone. This is why I trust sat123.com and their satellite phones to keep me connected no matter what. With a satellite phone from Sat123, it doesn't matter if you're out in the wilderness or caught in the middle of a disaster. This phone works when cell towers don't. It's the ultimate tool for staying in touch when everything else has failed. Here's the best part. Sat123.com is family owned, 100% committed to quality and reliability, and they believe in keeping you and your family safe wherever you are. Right now, if you go to sat123.com/joy, that is sat123.com/joy, and use the JOY promo code, JOY, for 10% off, you'll get 10% off your entire order, which is a phenomenal deal from an amazing company that supports the Shannon Joy Show. Be ready for anything. Stay connected with sat123.com/joy. We love the folks over at the satellite phone store, sat123.com/joy, sat123.com/joy. Everything is 10% off when you use that the promo code JOY. They have everything you need for when the lights go out, and their Faraday line of products are amazing. This is the EMP blocking and EMF blocking technology that I've really come to depend on. My Faraday beanie, I wear it every single night when I go to bed. And I'm telling you, it has helped with headaches. It's a really great product. In fact, my father-in-law, Rich, had terrible tinnitus. And since he started using the Faraday beanie and also the Faraday blanket when he's using devices, he has seen a marked improvement in that tinnitus, which is a miracle. I mean, he's been struggling with this for like years. So really great products, a really great company. They support the Shannon Joy Show. They have generators, solar panels, satellite phones, of course, a really great deal for the Joy audience, a free satellite phone plus a free Faraday bulletproof backpack for people in the Joy audience. If you use that promo code JOY, they take great care of this audience. So sat123.com, sat123.com. Welcome back, Tom Haviland, into the Joy virtual studio. One of the biggest questions, Tom, that people have is, what do we do about this? We won an election. This election was won by the medical freedom community. This is why Donald Trump brought RFK in, asked him to suspend his campaign, brought him into the MAGA camp. It was to bring in those who had been resisting COVID vaccines and lockdowns, forced masking, people who are raising the alarm bells about COVID-19 vaccine injury and death, the vaccine injured themselves who are still suffering today, people who have lost loved ones due to massive horrific vaccine injury and death. It's just awful. So why does it feel like to me that this issue is on the back burner and kind of off the table? Does it feel like that to you? And if it does, what do we do to push this back into the fore?
Absolutely, Shannon. It seems like the focus is switched to fluoride in the water or mRNA in the food or, other things. It's unusual, isn't it? Because to me, this is the highest priority issue, is the vaccines and what they're still doing to humanity and trying to get these things off the market. So, I don't think the government may not come to our rescue. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but so it relies upon us, the people, to continue to say no, because Big Pharma's not stopping. They've got a whole bunch of mRNA-based shots using the same lipid nanoparticle technology for our futures. They want to put it into the RSV shot, the shingles shot, the regular flu shot, the bird flu shot, more COVID shots. If they're talking about cancer vaccines, you're mRNA-based. So this technology, many of us, Dr. McCullough, myself, Dr. Makis, Pierre Corey, we believe these things are very dangerous and should be taken off the market immediately. But, us saying it is one thing, but then the powers that be doing it is another.
That's really disappointing. And I think that we are going to have to, it's been very quiet. It's been very quiet in the medical freedom community and in MAHA. It's almost as if people are waiting for RFK. They don't want to say anything, don't want to ruffle any feathers. We don't want to make Trump mad or make any of the Democrats who are voting for RFK mad. We want to just be super quiet. So really, the movement has been impotent for about 6 months as we anxiously wait for our hero, RFK Jr., to be, confirmed as the head of HHS. And so I think that it's going to be very important, Tom, that once he is in office, we begin to raise our voices again. And in the same way that we would scrutinize the HHS director and during the Biden administration, or even in 2020, during the Trump administration, we're going to have to then scrutinize RFK Jr. as well. I'm just concerned that a lot in our movement are not going to be willing to do that because of friendships or belief systems or anything like that. But, I think that we're going to have to raise our voices.
I agree, Shannon. And what's interesting is the leadership may be hesitant, but the base is ready.
Right.
Because I've been to meetings before. I was at here in just north of Dayton, Ohio. There was a rally last year where Trump was there, pulled up with his airplane, had Kristi Noem there, J.D. Vance, Bernie Moreno, Jim Jordan. and they were talking, trying to get Bernie Moreno elected. But I went around in that crowd before that rally started, and I had that T-shirt that I showed at the beginning with me, and saying, "Trump, please renounce the jabs."
Right.
I didn't get any pushback at all, and I was showing the small vial of the clots at that time. People were saying, "No," they were happy. I didn't get the shot, or they were saying, "Hey, I know somebody who got the shot and they got injured," but I got nobody saying, "Hey, put that shirt away," shut up, because I think Trump's own base. Most of us, we know that most people have stopped taking the shots by now.
Right.
So this is a winning issue for Trump, for him to renounce the jabs now and say, I can be proud of Operation Warp Speed, trying to get something out there quickly, but that does not mean I have to be proud of the product that was produced. He can divorce himself from the product because the product was lousy and dangerous.
Yeah.
So I think his base wants to hear him say that, but he's so much in love with that statement. They told me I've saved 100 million people. He has an ego and he doesn't want to let go of that. So I'm going to try, like I'm going to CPAC next week.
Oh, man.
Some of our colleagues like Dr. McCullough, Dr. Corey, Dr.
Are they going to be there? Are they going to be there?
I hope they come. I hope they come as well, because I think we should make a big presence in front of the GOP leadership that, hey, this is not a dead issue. We still want these things taken off the market.
Right.
Because it's a medical freedom issue. It's bigger than just these jabs by themselves, right? It's a medical freedom issue that you should be able to decide for yourself whether or not you're going to get injected with an experimental drug.
Yes, we're going to have to reinvigorate this movement, and I hope that we can do that at the Summit for Truth and Wellness on March 29th here in Rochester, New York. As I mentioned, Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Mary Telly Bowden, Dr. Naomi Wolf. We have Mary Holland of Children's Health Defense. Tom Haviland will be there with his blood clots. I'll give you a table. Maybe put on the stage, Tom, to give a little bit of a presentation to the audience. And I have Aaron Day of Technocracy coming as well. We have, and yes, CJP Rumble. I did say Sasha Latapova. I was texting with Sasha this morning and asked her to be on one of our panels. And she said, absolutely. She just has to double check her schedule. So I'm going to do everything I can to get Sasha here as well. I want this to be a coming together. We want to reinvigorate this medical freedom movement. We want to find each other, reinforce each other. This is the issue of our times. This must be the issue of our times. And just electing someone into office, if they aren't going to address these things and acknowledge what is happening, well, then what is the point of having these elections in the first place? If we had to do this from the bottom up through the courts at the local level, at the state level, then maybe that's what we have to do as well. But we at least have to acknowledge that it's happening. We at least have to acknowledge that our leaders should be acknowledging that it is happening. And if they are not, they need to be held accountable. Tom Haviland, thank you so much for being with us today on the show. Can people reach out to you or find your work? How can they support your efforts?
Yeah, they can find my work, Shannon, at my assistant, Laura Kasner, has a Substack that we affectionately call Clotastrophe.
Oh, no.
They can go to laurakasner.substack.com.
Great.
And find all the work, including some spectacular photos of the clots. Also, an interesting article on me meeting Tucker Carlson and actually handling the clots as well. Yeah, I met Tucker a few months ago. So
what did he say?
Yeah, they have vials of the clots. They know this exists, but yet Tucker hasn't had me on his show yet, but he knows this is happening. So, well,
and you have the receipts. You have the receipts. You have the surveys. You have the reports. And that's very interesting. What did he say when you showed him? Oh, that's insane. What did he say?
I handed him one of these to keep, and he said, "Is this for real?" I said, "Let me introduce you, by the way, Tucker, to the most spectacular side effect of the COVID-19 vaccines." And he said, "Is this for real?" And I said, "It's for real, Tucker." And then he said, "I'm sure glad I didn't get the shots." So,
well, what about these people, though? See, that's what frustrates me. Oh, I'm glad I didn't get it. I'm glad my kids didn't get it. Well, what about your audience?
Exactly. You should go a step further, have me on the show so I can tell all of America about these. But God bless you, Shannon, for letting me do this. I appreciate it.
Of course. Major Tom Haviland, you're one of my favorite people out there. And just a diligent, cheerful, hard worker for truth. And those are the kind of people that we love to have on the Shannon Joy Show. So you keep up that great work, okay? And guys, support Tom over at laurakastner.substack.com. Thank you, Tom. We'll see you on March 29th here in Rochester, New York for the Summit for Truth and Wellness. Thank you.
Bye, Shannon.
All right, we'll be back in a moment right here on the Shannon Joy Show to continue the discussion. The bizarre Oval Office press conference, Elon, Trump, very weird. I have some observations about that and a clip or two. We will continue with that when we come back on the Shannon Joy Show.
New details tonight on the 1963 assassination of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. The alleged assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, was involved in a CIA operation 3 months before the assassination.
This project was said to be a covert CIA operation that was developing a top-secret vaccine and/or a biological weapon.
What they're doing is they're trying to kill Castro.
I'm just a patsy.
In 1963, the world was a powder keg ready to explode, with the CIA holding a match to fuses on every continent. From Vietnam to Cuba, clandestine operations were being waged to preserve a fascist new world order, which emerged from the ashes of the Third Reich. Assassination teams within the CIA had their eyes on 2 sitting heads of state. Fidel, a few years earlier, had survived an agency-led coup d'etat. The other head of state, President John F. Kennedy, had scuttled that attempted overthrow and pledged to dismantle the agency, which was already planning his demise. U.S. soil was no longer sacred nor safe from the murderous reach of the CIA, which now reached ambitiously into the heartland of America and into the bayous of New Orleans.
Not me, however, I'm a communist.
A young girl found herself caught up in a clandestine covert operation to eliminate Fidel Castro. This wouldn't be a shot heard around the world, but rather a silent shot of super cancer-causing poison derived from a monkey simian virus called SV40. A team of fascists hell-bent on defeating communism, directed by the CIA, was formed in New Orleans. This den of vipers included the head of the National Cancer Society, the FBI's former head agent in mafia-controlled Chicago, and a paramilitary instructor who would bring in a double agent named Lee Harvey Oswald. This tale has everything from murder, espionage, a tragic love story, to bioweapons and the genesis of gain-of-function research. At the end of this, we'll have one dead doctor, multiple dead agents, and a dead president. I'm Shannon Joy. Stay tuned as I take you through the full story. Welcome back, everyone, to the final segment of the Shannon Joy Show on this Wednesday. Please feel free to go to theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com to sign up for the daily e-newsletter so that you never, ever, ever miss a show. Also listed in my daily e-newsletter are all of the links, my top headlines of the day, and you will notice today the top headline of February 12th, 2025 is Naomi Wolf's very important piece, The Sack of Rome, Elon Musk's Digital Coup. She writes in this piece, among other things, it's about 12 pages printed out. We'll go through it in a little more detail in subsequent shows because it's long, and it really lays out one by one every concern about the new government department, the new government organization. It's hard to know what DoGE really is technically and what Elon Musk is technically in context of our government and our governing system, but he has an enormous amount of power. Naomi Wolf lays out diligently every aspect of her concerns about this unelected position and the power of Elon Musk. She said, if I'm right about even some of my concerns as listed below, These few days represent, and these are the days that Elon had his way with all of our data and his tech team over the weekend, represent a Rubicon that can never now be uncrossed, during which data and IP, intellectual property captivation, will have made Musk and the people with him, whom he now allies, more powerful than any president, including more powerful than President Trump himself. It will have made Musk more powerful than any nation state, more powerful than the WEF and the WHO, more powerful than any prime minister, and more powerful than any other CEO or leader of any other set of corporations. This is the power that Elon Musk has seized in one weekend as he accessed not just read-only, but also with the ability to manipulate, which she lays out in her piece, the most valuable data on the face of the planet. Trillions and trillions of dollars worth of data. She writes in the piece, you may hate the government, which we all do, but wait for your private owned AI managed government. You don't know what hate is. If AI that is privately owned is applied to the US government, there will be no more human accountable US government system in the way that there has been till now. And we know that the way they're working now is fraudulent. It has an enormous amount of problems regarding efficiency in the American people. But handing it over to AI is consolidating it into even fewer hands, and also more powerful hands. And there will be no accountable system of government. All right. And this was, a lot of these themes were touched on in the press conference, very bizarre press conference yesterday with President Trump and Elon Musk. You have to read this piece with Naomi Wolf. If you're looking for a constitutional perspective, someone who believes in privacy and transparency and basic liberty and wants to end corruption in the federal government and dissolve power from the federal government, read this piece. Naomi is being hammered by yappers and flappers on the right. One of them posting out, imagine claiming to be right-wing and conservative, anti-left, etc., seeing the last few weeks play out and still being miserable and black-pilled, right? I myself am going to enjoy the ride. So the right wants to defend this. There's probably a lot of money wrapped up in it. I'm not sure why they're defending this, but a very bizarre press conference yesterday with Elon Musk, his son, and President Trump seated at the presidential desk, Elon Musk standing and explaining why DoGE is the bee's knees. And we have a clip from that, and then I'm going to give you, I have a list of observations. I watched the entire thing. I encourage you guys to read Naomi's piece and then watch the entire press conference, 30 minutes long, and see what you come away with. We'll talk about it tomorrow on the show. But Annie, if you want to play just a quick snippet from this press conference, we'll post it, the link to this in the show notes, and then I'll give you my observations in a moment. The transparency.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts. When it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president I know has directed you to look into. Yeah. Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability, check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately,
Including you yourself.
Yes, but transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not?
And so Elon Musk, they're saying, and again, it's a 30-minute press conference. They ask him, are you policing yourself? That in and of itself is a messed up question, right? He is unelected. DoGE isn't an actual office of the federal government. Congress did not appropriate the power. There was no constitutional amendment. We don't know the people who are working for DoGE. And so Elon says, well, yes, we are transparent because I'm telling you everything. We have a website that I created. We have a website that is staffed by people I put in power. We went to the White House, or we went to the United States government, accessed all of the data for an entire weekend, likely multiple weekends. And we are going to give to you, we are going to release to you the information. That is not the same. That is not transparency. That is the selective transparency of a billionaire oligarch who works in the tech industry, whose competitors, he now has access to their information, and who would benefit directly through his AI corporations at, if the government were to dissolve or get rid of, say, the Department of the Treasury or the Department of Education or HHS, right? And replace that with AI. Well, who's running the AI? Who is scrutinizing the AI? What if AI decides that you shouldn't get your government benefit? What if AI decides that you shouldn't get your Medicaid or your Medicare or your tax refund? What if AI decides that you lied on your taxes? What if AI decides that you owe $10 million in taxes and they send you an AI generated email saying, hey, you need to pay this to the federal government and you don't comply? Like, where is the human element? What is this thing? What is this blob? What is this organization that they're building? I can't believe that conservatives and constitutionalists aren't concerned about this. It was a non-answer to a very disturbing question, among other very disturbing questions. There were other themes and observations that I noticed throughout the entirety of this 30-minute press conference. There was no mention of the Constitution whatsoever. Elon Musk talked about democracy. In order to save democracy, they have to get rid of the bureaucracy. Well, what are they going to replace that bureaucracy with? They are not cutting the size and scope of government. They're not cutting debt and deficit spending. Where is all that money going? Is it going to Elon or any subsidiary of Elon's companies or Elon's friends or other tech bros? I noticed the use of that false democracy. There's no mention of constitutional separation of power, limitations on power. And this idea, that we are a democracy is also a false argument. The United States of America is not a democracy, yet he used that to defend the creation of whatever this new thing is, DoGE. Trump mentioned in the introduction of this event that it was unfathomable that any judge would have any problem with the establishment of DoGE and the access to our information. And he said, and I quote, they might have to take care of the judges. Well, what does that mean? We have separation of powers. We have 3 branches of government. We have checks and balances. So are they going to get rid of the judges? Are they going to issue an executive order to make sure that judges can't scrutinize this? Like, this is really intense. This is very concerning. They talk about, waste, fraud, and abuse, spent a good amount of time outraging the entire audience about all of the waste and the fraud and the abuse. And we should be outraged by the lack of transparency and the waste and the fraud and the abuse. However, don't we already know this? Don't you remember the constitutional reports every year? So-and-so, a Republican conservative, comes out with the report on waste, fraud, and abuse, and conservative media throws a fit about the little shrimp on the treadmill or whatever it is that is outrageous. I mean, we've seen this trope before. We've seen the use of this type of reporting to outrage the American people, but how are we to know that there won't be waste, fraud, and abuse with the new system, the new AI system that is run by just a handful of oligarchs and technocrats? I noticed that the left-wing media is asking the questions that typically conservative constitutionalists would be asking about this situation, and they're not. So those are just a handful of the issues that I have with this. Really interested in what you guys think about this press conference and also the reporting by Naomi Wolf about, DoGE and what is, as Catherine Austin Fitts is saying, a coup d'etat. We're in constitutional crisis waters here, guys. She ends her piece regarding the value of government. She says, imagine a gold mine of the value of government data. Imagine a gold mine filled with fully minted, priceless doubloons. It's not a gold mine to citizens, many of whom readily express their hatred and contempt for the government, including for its bureaucracies. But from the point of view of the broligarchs, it's good. It is an immeasurable, valuable trove of the purest, most accurate, pristine, least ambiguous, and high-quality data you can ever imagine. Due to privacy restrictions, the government firewalls, the broligarchs have never been able to breach this treasure trove. They want it. They salivate for it. They need it to satisfy their God complex. She says, I realized as I watched all of this unfold that while President Trump may believe that he harnessed Silicon Valley, the real risk is that Silicon Valley has harnessed him. That's Naomi Wolf. The piece is The Sack of Rome, Elon Musk's digital coup. Can't wait to talk with you about all of this tomorrow on the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you guys for being with us today. We're going to have 2 days, tomorrow and Friday, lighter days where we can really engage with the live chat. I want to hear from you guys. Make sure you grab those, the links in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. Appreciate all of you today. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.